Hello, hello? Hello, hello? How are we? Hi, everybody. How we all doing? Hello, Doku, and Clad, and Fitz, and Roses. Hello. How we all doing today? It's a Woosala, it's me. Hello, hello. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Today we are doing some critiques of some lovely artwork, some of which you can see beside me on screen. So we're looking at some illustrations, some designs, a comic page. These are all submitted by our Patreon supporters, as you probably know. And yeah, I'm going to be reviewing them today and giving feedback. And if you yourself are watching this and you are interested in having your own work critiqued, whether it's comic, like a comic you're working on, something you're writing, illustrations, design work, whatever it is, you can sign up for our Patreon, link down below, and get your stuff looked at next month. So there we go. I did the plug. So now we can actually move on. Can I go last? Yes, Clyde, you can go last. All right, well, Ink and Fitz, you can fight it out. Fitz doesn't mind when they go. Ink, do you have a preference? So we have Ink, and we don't actually have a lot of submissions today. I guess people are just busy. It makes sense. Like May, June is kind of when school terms and stuff is ending and people are going on vacation and stuff, so it makes sense that less people are submitting right now. I'm always ready. Ink, do you want to go first then? And then Fitz, and then Clad? We kept it easy for you. Exactly. You guys were kind to me. School, yes. Don't miss that. Exactly. Exactly. Same. I'm very happy I'm not in school anymore. Awesome. Okay, so sounds good? Cool. Okay, Ink, you're first. All right. So you're reworking an illustration that you submitted a while ago. Might have been last month. Or the month before? I don't know. It all runs together for me. But yeah, okay. So yeah, you're reworking an old, previous illustration. For context, here's the previous one, and then here's the new one that's in progress. Okay, so how is the motion running? So, oh my god, the running motion looking. You found that particularly challenging. And it doesn't seem like there's the right amount of background business going on, or too busy, or too sparse. Okay. Right, and you're just looking for general feedback, especially on the anatomy. Okay, awesome. Well, a month ago? Okay, cool. Okay, so I think previously, like I remember I told you to do some kind of like foreground elements, and I'm glad that you've added them. It creates some good depth in this illustration. I think there was more depth in the previous one, but that's just because it had a lot of shading added, and so I understand that you're probably going to go in and add shading and shadows and highlights and stuff, and that'll probably help with some of the depth stuff going on. But I do like that you added the foreground elements. As for the rest, so like I like how you, same as previously, like the different swords and stuff in the ground and how they get smaller as they go back and less detailed. That definitely helps with creating the depth as well to the space. The only thing, this is gonna have a lot of shading after the stuff's worked out. Yeah, totally makes sense. But I find right over here on the left side is a little bit sparse. I think you just need to bring the same kind of elements over here. That would help it out a lot. Though I know you're probably adding in like fire effects, right? So they might cover different pieces of it. So there is that. So if that's going to be covered, then don't worry about that. But generally, pretty good work on the like the background and perspective stuff. One thing I would say, I think compositionally, I think there's still gonna be I feel like there still needs to be a bit more space around what's her name? It's in the file name. What is it called? The Queen Boudica. Sure am good at reading things. Anyways, oh yeah, so anyways, for where she's placed in the composition, I think she needs a bit more breathing room still. Because I remember last time I told you that like her foot is getting kind of like cut off and it needs more room down there, and you did add some, which is good, but I think you need to add like a little bit more. Honestly, I think I'm not sure if you want to like expand the canvas a little bit or maybe make her a little bit smaller. Or maybe you could maybe shrink down how much like vertical space she's taking by like leaning her forward more and kind of foreshortening her, and then it looks like, I guess, like a more kind of forceful run forward. But anyways, I still think she's getting a little bit squished. Like I really wish we had a bit more room at the bottom here to see these like foreground details. Just from where they're placed, it feels like they're like up on a wall or something, or up on a hill. I think you need to kind of show that detail, otherwise it does kind of feel, especially the cannon, just feels like it's floating a little bit. So I'd add in like whether it's like a castle wall or like on a hill, maybe showing some like grass and details. And then yeah, give her a bit more space to breathe. Her crown antler things are like, I don't know, they feel like kind of stunted at the top. I'm finding the same deal with like her feet feeling stunted. I'd love to be able to see this kind of detail of her like stomping on another cannon in more detail, because it's such like a fun detail. And yeah. But I think you're gonna do this when you go into shading, but I just wanted to show like some examples of that like foreground stuff and how to use it to like frame the scene a little bit more. I think you've got a good start here. Like I like how you have things in the foreground like pointing toward the queen. Honestly, I'd move this cannon so it's pointing like directly at her face. You can create a nice leading line that way. People will follow the line of the cannon and look at her. That's a really good compositional trick with any of this stuff. Having it kind of all point and converge toward her and her face is a really good idea. But yeah, just good examples of like using these foreground elements to frame things. I grabbed Hollow Knight because it was the only example I could think of where I can reliably find like screenshots with like these silhouetted foreground elements. But you can see how like with these is it stalactites or stalagmites? One of those. Anyways, the spikes here and the crystals and stuff, they're like they're taller at the corners and then shorter in the middle, so you can really focus on the bench and the character. And same here. So with this particular screenshot, you see like the fungus and foliage and stuff, like it's kind of taller around the edges and then shorter wherever there's a focal point, which would be right here. So just using those foreground elements and really silhouetting them so they're not like stealing attention when you shade them. I think that'll really help. So I'd recommend like maybe bringing up some of these like corner elements. Again, like I said, using the leading lines to point towards the focal point, which is her. And yeah, and just making sure that it's nice and dark so it's not stealing focus when you do go in and shade them. They're less detailed than the character. Yeah, exactly. Like you can cut out a lot of details and really like put them in shadow so that they're not stealing focus. Yeah. Anyways, so hopefully all that makes sense. Let me know. It might be covered up by a lot of the like explosions and like smoke effects that you're planning to put in here, but it would be interesting to see maybe like her path, like whether it's like footprints or like you know, destruction, like destroyed carts and soldiers and stuff in the background. That might also be a good way to add some depth to the background and landscape. Okay, so I think that's all I have to say for the composition, and hopefully it makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, Ink. So I'll go on to the anatomy part, because I know you said you were struggling with like getting the running pose. I think the legs, I think you've got a better start with the legs than previously, because I remember there was some kind of like issue with not overlapping and stuff that was making things feel kind of flat. So I'm glad that you have like the leg kind of like overlapping, covering the middle, the knees larger to show that it's like closer to the camera, and the foot smaller. I think the shading will definitely help, because it feels flat right now, obviously, because it's just flat colored. And adding shadow to kind of create more depth will really help you. I think her foot back here, it's hard to tell. I think if you add shading, it'll help a lot. It feels a little stunted right now, but I can tell that like the foot is just like back away from the camera, which makes it look like shortened. So yeah, shading will probably help with that, and you'll probably find it really helpful as well. I think another thing that would help you for the upper body, I think she needs to be like tilted forward a little bit more. She feels very like she's straight onto the camera, and then her knees are kind of coming out like this, and I think I want it more like this, if that makes sense. So her face and shoulders would be like a little bit larger. Her waist would kind of be like the farthest from the camera, and then her knee would come out and like be close to the camera again. Hopefully that makes sense. Creating more overlap, like having her upper torso kind of overlap with her stomach, having the head kind of overlap the shoulders, and honestly a lot of the neck will probably disappear that way. I think will really help with creating that depth that you want. Makes sense. I actually played a bunch of Hollow Knights this last stream. It's such a good game. Love that game. Really lovely art as well. Yeah. So I think that'll help you, just creating that more overlap. I would recommend finding visual references, because you said you found them for the legs, and I think that really helped you. And yeah, and I would just do the same, like find an image of someone like running towards the camera, and you're golden. But yeah, I think there's lots of great like movement going on. Like I love how you have everything kind of like diagonally positioned, creates lots of like crisscrossing lines, makes it really dynamic. makes it feel like it's full of movement. I love the details in the hair. I like how you've created these like waves with like the hair that frames her face. I like how you have it really like billowing out behind her like a cloud. Like that looks really great. And same with like her clothing, like the bottom of her dress here. Like I really like how you have it like billowing out. It feels very full of movement. Yeah, and I think with like the arms, I think you've done a good job with the foreshortening, I should say, so that I'm not poo-pooing on your anatomy altogether. I think you did a very good job with like having her arm and her staff like out behind her and bringing this forward. I think you did a really good job. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I was trying to think of good references to look up for like running towards the camera. The only one I can think of the only one I can think of is that scene in Get Out where the groundskeeper is like running towards the main character. It's the only one I can think of. My cursor's invisible again. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, it might help to have video and like take stills of someone running towards camera, because if you say wanted to like I don't know, try the pose yourself, it'd probably be pretty awkward. Oh, I love Get Out. It's so good. But I'm sure there's lots of other places you can find people like images of people running. Yeah. Awesome. Color-wise, everything's looking pretty good. Yeah. It's looking nice. I'll be excited to see how it looks all like shaded and adding all that depth with that stuff, because you did a good job in the last one. Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Ink? Or anything I didn't cover? Make sense? No problem. Well, thanks for submitting. Yeah, so next up is Fitz. All right, my friend. Let's go. Okay, all right, so the first one... right, so this is supposed to resemble a playing card. I'd like feedback on anything that stands out, especially composition and line art. Okay, awesome. So yeah, Fitz, if you have any other questions, let me know while I do the feedback. Yeah, so I think you've done a good job with like making it look like a playing card. Let me see. I was thinking about the composition. I really like the pose you're using. It does a very good job of kind of like bringing the kind of eye around. Like I like how it leads you straight from like the two different the Joker words on the side. Yeah. And yeah, I like how there's lots of these nice like curves going through with like the hat and the like the legs, the curve on like the shirt and the little collar bit and the hair and stuff. Like lots of good, this nice kind of like curve shape going throughout it, that I think really helps kind of like bring you around on the piece. So I think that's very good compositionally. I think you could exaggerate it a little bit more on the character's arms. I think you could do something interesting with like an S kind of curve, if that makes sense. So like having it start with their hand and then maybe having like the sleeve kind of billow down a bit more, or putting like a bend in their arm so that you get kind of like a bit more of a dip that brings you up to the face, and then kind of like do the opposite. So maybe their elbow could be like pointing up, or you could billow the sleeve out here, and it would just create like a very like a nice kind of complementary curve to what you have going on. It would also create some nice visual interest through it. Probably create some even more dynamicness. Yeah, just some a bit more movement through the arms, if that makes sense. I also think it's a little bit empty down here at the bottom. Because you've got a lot going on up here, that kind of leads you here, which is great, and I like how you can come back up through the legs of the character, but there's just some negative space going on here. So I don't know if you wanted to put maybe like I'm trying to think of like jokery things to put in, but like an object or something here, or maybe some kind of background element, or maybe some text. I'm not sure. You could put for the playing card, you could put maybe like an interesting frame that maybe like could just be kind of an outline up here where you want to frame the character, and then maybe put some like ornate detailing down here, something like that, just to kind of fill it up a little bit more and kind of bring you through this area of the composition. A mask, yep, some juggling balls and accessories. Yeah, that would look great. I would maybe also give like a centimeter. How big is a centimeter? Like a 1/4 inch. Where's a 1/2 inch? I'm sorry, I'm not good with inches. I'm too Canadian. But yeah, but like adding a little bit of padding kind of on both sides would probably help. I find the text is a little bit close cut to the edge. I just add a little bit more on the sides, but top and bottom, I think you've got a very good amount of space. Color-wise, sorry, I'm squinting to see the contrast. Color-wise, I think I don't think you have a problem ever really with like contrast issues between like the different parts. I like the color blocking on all of the pieces. One, it's very like jester jokery, but yeah, but it creates good kind of contrast, these nice little triangle pieces throughout. I think that looks really nice. And the color scheme is very like harmonious. I wonder if you could bring the brown of the hair throughout more, because you have lots of this like peachy salmony color and then like the nice bright pink, and I can tell that like you've got you're bringing out some of the like kind of yellow tones in the hair through some of the other colors, but it would be nice to kind of bring that through a little bit more, even if it's like coloring the typography or maybe like adding more elements or something. But yeah, just bringing that in a little bit more I think would help. And I think you need some more kind of like dark contrast here at the bottom, because you have some good like this kind of like dark frame around the character's face by using the hair, having some like dark shading in on the hat and on the shirt, and I think yeah, you just adding another kind of like darker element down here would really help. By the way, I've already gotten this printed for its purpose as a certificate of authenticity for a doll. Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I figure with most of these, unless you guys like explicitly say that like you're like still working on it, I generally assume that like I'm just giving you advice for future stuff that's similar or future like illustrations. That's cool that you got it like printed for like the doll stuff. That's awesome. But yeah. But yeah, definitely just adding something here would help kind of balance out the composition, especially because with like playing cards, I like obviously because it's like a character illustration, I don't know if you want to do like, because playing cards are kind of designed so that they can be held both ways and still be read, so even if you pick it up upside down you can read it. So a lot of them will have like, they'll just show the torso of like a character of the, you know, the king or queen or joker or whatever, and then kind of flip it down the middle and have it mirrored here. So having something here to kind of, even if you're not totally doing that like flip, having something here to just kind of like, oh sorry, my cursor's gone. Having something down here to kind of mirror the kind of balance the weight of the composition makes sense. Oh, is the Joker usually full body? Oh, maybe I'm wrong then. It's full body to stand out. Oop, my bad. They did have accessories down farther. Yeah, I think they just need something to balance it. Did you have any other questions on that one or anything I didn't cover? The shading and the line art? Shading wise, I think you're getting some good contrast between like your highlights and your shadows. Like here the shadows are very, very saturated. I think on some of them you could probably go even darker. Honestly, maybe not for this image, but I like how saturated you're going, but some of them you could still go darker with it. Line art wise, I think you're doing a good job with adding like different weight to different parts. So you have nice like thin lines for detail work, like especially in the face and the hair, and then like on the lines in the clothing, and then you're using like thicker lines for some of these larger shapes. I wonder if it might be a design thing, but I wonder if, because you always have lots of like nice little details going on in the face, which makes sense because that's like where a lot of the like focus is. But I wonder if like maybe in other parts of the design you might want to bring some of this like texture and stuff that you have in the hair and face and use some of those like smaller lines elsewhere. It might just be a balance thing. But I think line art wise, I think you're doing a very good job with it. Yeah, not really seeing any major issues. I think the line art is looking good. I think with the shading, there's some spots where you may need to kind of check the light source. I think generally here you've done a good job with like having a light source and really sticking to it. But there's some places like right underneath the shirt here, there'd be more of like a cast shadow from the shirt because the light looks like it's kind of from above, like maybe up over here. So yeah, there'd be a bit like a farther down kind of cast shadow on the torso. Similar to how you have it with the pants here. And I think I'd honestly light up the face a little bit more. I think it's like a contrast issue because of the blush on their face. But you're losing some of the highlight that goes on like the top of the cheeks. You've got like a lot of highlight on the nose and then on the chin, but I think you're missing this kind of like plane right here. And it kind of disappears into the shadows here. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Awesome. But yeah, so I think that's it. If there are more questions for it, let me know, but I'll move on to the next one. Right, so this is your D&D character. Feedback on pose and expression and how the line art looks compared to the first piece. Okay, awesome. So yeah, the line art is very different. It's that kind of more sketchy kind of layered line art that I've seen from you before. I like how it gets like a bit tighter in the detail areas, like on the face. Like I can tell there's parts where you went in and really created those details. I'm noticing it a lot on the chest area and then right at like the center of the face. Whereas like I find a lot of the areas kind of around the edge of the character are a lot more blurry. It creates a bit of like a motion blur effect. Like it looks, I'm especially noticing it like right here on the hair and like the edges of the ears. It creates this kind of like atmospheric kind of blur, motion blur effect. I'm not sure if it's what you want. So I might go through and tighten it up because I do like the kind of sketch quality to like the eyes and the mouth and the nose and stuff. But I think just going in and kind of tightening it up and adding some more of those kind of like darker line details like you have here would really help with around the edges. With making it feel a bit more cohesive and then using this kind of blur effect like to your advantage. Like if you want to show something kind of moving into the background a bit more, kind of adding that blur effect would probably really work. As for the pose and expression, the expression's really great. I think you've done a good job making like his face very balanced, very expressive. I like the little kind of upturn on the eyes to go along with the smile. I think that really helps bring it out more. He's got like a very warm expression, warm affect right now. Yeah, one thing I really like about this sketchy style that you're doing is like I like how you have some variance on the like color of the line. So I like so around the eyes, you have some kind of like lighter layers to the line, and then it's darker, say like at the corners of the mouth or like on different parts of the eye to really make them like stand out. So I'd lean into that on this as well. I think it's a really cool effect that it creates. And is a good way to add like depth and shadow, same way that like line weight can do that. As for the pose, so I think his arms and legs are getting a little bit stunted. I'm finding there's a good balance between like his head and his torso. But I'm finding like his hips are very short. His arms are very short in comparison to like how wide his shoulders are. Like his elbow should be kind of like here around his waist, and then I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm not sure if it's actually an arm problem or if it's like his hips and legs problem, because like I was gonna say his hands should fall kind of like at the bottom of his hip, but on this side like it looks like too long or too big, but over here it looks too small. So yeah, I think the legs and hips are being a bit stunted by the composition, which is creating some weird anatomy stuff. The pose itself has good motion in it. Like I like how like you're doing a good job with like angling the like the arm that's kind of closer to the background back, and then creating like some interesting kind of like curves through the composition that way. So I think that really works. And I think it helps bring attention to like his face and the emotion. You're doing some interesting stuff with like some foreshortening here on the arm. I think with this arm being kind of back, you might want to add some more shadow kind of right in this area, because it would be kind of pulled back and behind, and then adding some more highlight like right here on the puff of the sleeve just to kind of show that like crease in the arm, I think would help. Do you think if the boots weren't visible that would help the legs? No, I think they're just like sized down too small. Like I think from right above his navel needs to be like lengthened. Because there's a lot of space between like his shoulders and like the bottom of his chest, and then right here feels like sized down too small. So I think it's like just like a proportion problem more than like a compositional problem, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little too short. Yeah, I think they're up too high. He's missing a lot of kind of like the lower stomach area. Yeah, I think it would probably be easy. I think it would just take some resizing and kind of like painting over it kind of thing. Color-wise, things look good. I really like the use of this kind of like sagey green background with the peach and the pink on top. Good contrast in the character design, but I think I've talked about his design before. Yeah, and I like how you're bringing the peachy kind of colors in through the hair and the clothing, and then adding these nice kind of like rosy highlights to his skin. I think it creates a lot of depth as well. And I really like the way you're kind of using gradients and stuff to give these very like kind of curved edges to like the cheeks and like the chest and stuff. Yeah, I think you're doing a really good job with showing like those kind of soft edges as well as like harder edges. Like I think you've done a good job like shaping like his torso by using some of these like softer gradients and then the harder edge shadows, as well as like on the arm, showing like kind of the cylindrical nature of the arm, if that makes sense, and the legs. Does the skin tone look more natural shaded? Yeah, that's the thing. I think by bringing in those kind of like peachy red tones, I think you have really kind of made his skin feel more like glowy and yeah, less ashy, more vibrant. And it's nice. It looks really good. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, adding the saturation to the highlights definitely helped. And I like the kind of like variation in his skin tone where he's got some kind of like more desaturated areas and then more saturated areas. It creates like some nice kind of natural looking skin. Yeah, do you have any more questions about this illustration, Fitz? I just really like the color pink. Hell yeah. Same here. Nothing you can think of? Awesome. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. So this is from like a design and OC trend, where random things in your life determine basic aspects of the character. I tried to do foreshortening and make the perspective a bit more dynamic. So feedback on that would be helpful, and anything else that stands out. Yeah, okay. So for this one, I really like the face area. I really like how the red and kind of like the orangey tone for like the blonde hair and the skin color, and the eyes and stuff, it really pops against the background, which is this kind of like purpley blue color. And yeah, and I like how the background is like very desaturated and you use saturation like in the face area to really make it stand out. So I think that works really well. Again, I think you've done a really good job with the skin tone. Like, I really like how you're using the highlights and the shadows, and it's creating like a very nice, like, glowy look to the skin. Like, it feels very alive and like there's blood flow, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think you're doing a really good job with your skin tones. I really like a lot of the, again, the really soft highlights that you're using to really highlight like the cheekbone and like the tip of the nose and the chin and the lips and stuff. So I think you're doing a really great job with that, and I'd like to see more of it. Yeah, so great work there. Lots of nice shine on the hair and stuff. I think proportionally there's some weirdness going on. So I think perspective-wise, I think the umbrella works. I like how, you know, you can see like the underside of it, the angle works. And I think kind of like the shoulders up, so like the head and the shoulders, and then the hands feel very connected and like in perspective. But I find the rest of the body feels too small in comparison to the head and the hands and shoulders and stuff. And I think the legs, like, they feel very turned. Like they feel like they got kind of like squished. Like they feel like they're turned to the side like a little bit too much and maybe need to be like facing forward a bit more. So like this front leg here, I think needs to be like coming down this way. So the knee would be kind of resting like down here. And maybe this back foot kind of disappears behind the leg from the overlap. And then I think this one could honestly stay where it is, but I think it needs to just be a bit longer just to match the size of like the head and the shoulders. And then I think doing that, the other kind of proportion issues that happen will probably be fixed. But I think just the legs where they're placed right now are kind of making things feel shrunk, if that makes sense. Yeah. I was going for an overhead angle, so it was a bit lost. Yeah, like I can tell with... There's parts of it that feel like the overhead angle, like I said, like the face and the hands and stuff. But yeah, but I think more kind of overlap probably would help. So if it's from above, you get a lot of the... let me see if I can find like a reference really quick. Trying to find a good example. I'm getting a lot of really great stock photography right now. I wish I could show you, but let's see, above angle. Sorry, I'm just looking for a good example. Come on, Google Images, help me out. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, so you see with like this person, you get like a bit more of like you get some overlap between like their different body parts, I guess. So like the shoulders and like the chest area are overlapping the stomach a little bit. The stomach comes out a little bit just from like the curve of sitting. But you can see more of like the tops of the thighs, if that makes sense. So I think like if we look at, oh, that's my Hollow Knight references. Where is it? Yeah, so this feels a lot more of like a side view, where if you look at this, you can see more of the top of the thigh. Hopefully that makes more sense. Because yeah, you still get like a good kind of like from the front view of like the chest and the neck and the face, but then yeah, kind of down at the bottom, things get a bit more kind of like overlapping and squished, and you see more of the top, just from the camera angle you're at. So yeah, I think I like the pose overall. I don't usually try to be more adventurous with posing. I think you did a good job. I think I definitely want to see more of this like posing and stuff from you. Oh, I also want to highlight, I really like this arm. I think you did a good job foreshortening this like forearm here and how it attaches to this arm. So good job there. I think you honestly do a really good job with posing. There was just some perspective stuff that got a little wonky here. But yeah. As for the other colors and stuff, I really like how, like I said, everything really pulls to the face because that's where like the most detail and the vibrant colors are and the contrast is. I think you're doing a good job again with like the gradienting stuff. I think there needs to be like a bit more I'm not sure what it is. It feels very low contrast at the bottom on the legs. Like you have some really nice like dark shadows and stuff up in this area, and then down here, especially on the white boots, it feels very washed out. So just keeping up that contrast that you've done really well up here throughout the whole thing. Forgot to put hard shading on the white. Okay. Yep. I think that's it for the big stuff. Is there any questions for this? That was a mistake. Hey, no worries. No worries. Do you have any questions about this? Anything I missed? Clad, your thing is your critique is coming up, so I hope you're done DMing. All I can think of. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for submitting, Fitz. Awesome. All right, Clad. I don't know if you're here. Where are your notes? See, now I feel bad. For the last stream, I made Kuro stay up late because they submitted. And, like, early in time for the Thursday stream. And I was like, okay, well, because we usually get, like, a ton of submissions for the Saturday stream. So I was like, okay, I'll do Kuro's now so that, like, there's enough time to do all the other ones on Saturday. And then we got very few submissions. So poor Kuro, I just made her stay up. Okay. Always helpful. Awesome. Okay. Clad, my friend, if you're not here, you can always listen back, but let me know if you're here. Okay, so another comic page. So you're looking for general critique. For context, the main characters had something happen to them, and now they're waking up in a body of water after a magical slumber. Okay, awesome. So, overall, really cool page. Clad's here. I just think she's working on stuff. Maybe? Anyways, yeah, so overall, really great composition. Lots of good, like, dynamic posing. Like, I really like the camera angles where you only see, we have two kind of camera angles going on. We're seeing from above and then below, and it's keeping very consistent, and I really appreciate that. So like, I love how we have this image for, like, from below, seeing the surface of the water. Really cool contrast stuff going on here. Like, I really like how you're showing, like, the surface of the water being very, like, light, and then, because it looks like it's only, like, what, two, three different kind of tones going on with, like, the black and gray, and then, like, I don't think this is quite white, but, you know, very few variations in the tone between the different, like, black and white and gray. So really cool how you've created this very great contrast here with the light, and then showing kind of like how deep down they are with the spacing and the perspective on the bubbles. Just really great work there. Love that. And then I like how we can see the image of them floating from above. Like, I really like how you've created this perspective by using, like, the bubbles and the, like, reflection on the water and stuff, and how it descends down, and just following really great, like, lighting and perspective, and really consistent camera angles. It's awesome. Just really great work. Yeah, very dynamic posing. Like, I like, even though they're floating, like I like how their, you know, their arms and legs are kind of out at different angles, and like their hands and feet are being kind of raised up by the buoyancy of the water. Like, really great work here. And I think it's very clear from just like the way their, like, clothing and hair is positioned that they're floating, and it's awesome and just really well done. Yeah. Um, yeah, and really great comic flow. Like, I like how we go straight from, like, honestly, I find the way, like, looking at the page, the comic flow for me, like, I start kind of here at the light at the top and then go to these bubbles and feel this kind of motion going up, and then you follow it down through here. The sister's leg here is like pointing you down towards here, so you look at the eye, and then over to here, and then down through this panel of them swimming upward. And just, yeah, lots of great motion, very dynamic, which is awesome. Love to see it. Yeah, I think you've done a good job with, like, it feels very dark in this top panel here. Like, I like how you've used kind of a gray to kind of outline between, like, because they have, like, dark hair and black hair, right? So I like how you've used this, like, outline to differentiate them from the background to ensure that, like, they're still readable. I think, honestly, with this bottom panel, you could use a little bit more of, like, outline to kind of show the motion in the water, because you have some of it. You have these kind of, like, motion lines of them, like, kicking and bubbles being created and stuff, which is great. I think you've gone, like, a little bit too heavy with the, like, outlining here, because it looks like you have some lines drawn in and then you outlined them with the gray. But I think you could honestly just use the gray, like, get rid of the lines and just use the gray in kind of, like, larger, like, shapes to kind of show this motion. And I'd love to see kind of more of this gray kind of outline, like, coming off of them and disrupting the water a bit more. I guess what I mean is, like, instead of using lines, using more kind of, like, full shapes to show the movement, I think would really help and show, like, the disturbance in the water, and maybe, like, the trail kind of coming off them of them disturbing the water while they swim. I think that would really help. With creating motion and making them feel like they fit in a little bit more in this last panel. I think in the first few you did a really good job with, like, it kind of implies, like, the stillness by having them with this kind of, like, thick outline of gray around them and then around the bubbles and stuff. And here is totally fine because you just have the air bubbles coming up, which is great, and good contrast and stuff. But here, yeah, I think just the lines are very distracting, especially on top of the kind of water reflection lines that you have going throughout. And yeah, and I think they're just a little bit distracting, so I'd use some larger shapes instead of the line work for showing the motion in the water. I think also for your typography, your sound effects here, I would honestly just use white instead of using the black with the white outline. Again, I find it's just distracting. It's a little hard to read here and there, like this one down at the bottom in particular. So I think if you just use white lettering on top of this black background, I think you'd get a lot better contrast with it. I think it works fine here. I also wonder if for this panel here where they're waking up and, like, all the bubbles are coming out of their mouths and stuff, like, maybe the brother needs kind of a sound effect near him. Maybe, like, erp or blub or something, or burble, I don't know. There's lots of different sound effects you could use, but maybe just something kind of right here. You could angle it the same angle as, like, this top one that says gulp. Maybe here you could maybe curve it. I think there's lots you could do, but I think it would help a little bit. I like the typography kind of over, like, her forehead. I think it's a good place to put it. I think just here feels like a little bit empty. if that makes sense. And I think it would help kind of lead down to this next section, this next panel, with just like a line kind of cutting across here. But otherwise, I think you've done a spectacular job. This is really great. Really great perspective, composition, comic flow stuff. Really, really great. Yeah, you do a really good job. I'm noticing especially in this image of them like swimming up. Like I really like how you've used, even though these are like flat colored, like their leggings here are flat, you can still really get a good sense of the shape just through the outline and like the actual shape of the leg. So I like how we follow like the curve of the back of the calf and then the front of the calf, or I guess the shin, kind of curves in and follows that line. Yeah, just really great subtle shapes and lines and overlap to really create great perspective. Really great to see. And again, same with like here where you're just using some overlap and foreshortening and stuff to really show like perspective and their position in the water. Just really great work there. Really great. Also love the little curly hairs. So good. Such great texture. Yeah, Clad, do you have any questions? I don't know if you're here still. But yeah, really great work. Awesome. Well, I'll hang out for a little bit in case Clad has questions. But yeah, thank you all for joining today. Is it my turn? Am I glad I just finished yours? I'm sorry. I just went over all your composition and stuff. If you'd like, no worries, I'm still playing. Okay, if you'd like, you can rewatch it after because we're gonna post the VOD. And let me know on Discord if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. Just checked. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so I just finished yours, so you can review and let me know if you have any questions after, and I'm happy to answer them. I'll give questions later. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Clad and Fitz and Ink, for submitting for this month. Really great work from everybody. If you are watching this and you would like to get your stuff critiqued, whether it's character design, comic pages, comic scripts, sketches, illustrations, whatever it is, and you'd like it looked at, you can sign up for our Patreon down below. It's only $8 to get the monthly critique. And yeah, and it'll give you access to a bunch of stuff on Discord, and then you can get your stuff looked at by me or Bones, who does the writing feedback stuff. Yeah, otherwise we'll see you guys later. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, love you guys. Keep up the great work. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah.